With the Bulls rumored to be interested in watching Trey Murphy's trade market, it raises an interesting trade target for the Chicago Bulls at the trade deadline that fits the timeline and fits the style of play that the Chicago Bulls need that could end up being a perfect trade target for the Chicago Bulls. We're going to separate what's real from the noise on that and rumors around Nick Claxton. We're also going to look at Coby White's return and how he's going to help the Chicago Bulls offense and the Bulls defensive slide and how to get that corrected. We're going to look at all that plus the mailbag right after this. What's going on, Bulls fans? Welcome to another episode of Chicago Bulls Central, your number one spot for everything Chicago Bulls related. I'm the host there, Haize, but more importantly, you guys can follow the channel at Bulls Central Pod on every social media platform we happen to be on. With that said, let's go ahead and get into this content for today, y'all. I want to start off talking about this Trey Murphy III rumors. Now, on yesterday's episode, when I talked about more realistic trade targets for the Chicago Bulls, not named Anthony Davis, I did say, hey, I want to hear from you guys, and a lot of you guys brought up Nick Claxton. We are going to talk about Nick Claxton on today's episode. We actually have a voicemail from Shay in regards to that. I'm going to use that to piggyback off of to have the in-depth conversation about Nick Claxton and his potential of being a trade target by the Chicago Bulls, both positively and negatively. So stay tuned to that portion if you want to hear that part of the show. But in getting ready for today's show, right, I've seen from a couple of outlets now, Clutch Points is one which is a mix of reporting and sometimes speculation, right? There have been some other outlets that have mentioned it, that the Bulls could have an interest in Trey Murphy III. And this is a player with the New Orleans Pelicans that I look at and I say, hey, listen, if you can get this guy in here in the building for the Chicago Bulls, you do that. And, you know, of course, it's going to be determined by what you would have to give up to give him. And it's going to be determined by, do the Pelicans actually go into like a full blow-up mode? I don't think that they will. I think that maybe moving Zion, but with having Derek Queen and Jeremiah Fears there, you want to keep some young players around there for sure, right? But they do have Jordan Poole, and Trey Murphy III could be somebody that can get them and net them some of the picks back that they lost. And, for example, for trading for Derek Queen, Trey Murphy III on the season is averaging 19.8 points per game, so basically 20, 7 rebounds, almost 4 assists. He's doing that on 45% shooting from the field overall and 35% shooting from three-point range. What Trey Murphy also does bring is that two-way play at the wing. And if you were to, for example, to replace Isaac Okoro in the starting lineup with Trey Murphy and keep just basically everything else the same, Josh Giddey, Coby White, Trey Murphy, Modest Buzelis, and Nikola Vucevic. Again, of course, long run, we want to replace Vooch with a more defensive-minded center. But that is a lineup that I tell you what, I'm extremely interested by. Not only does Trey Murphy fit the offensive philosophy of the Bulls, with being able to do a little bit of everything, right? Be able to play off ball, be able to be on ball. I think that he would be able to play off players like Josh Giddey. Having Josh Giddey here, it does allow for players that do more scoring to still find their looks, because you do have a player that can create like Josh Giddey does. Coby's a solid creator as well. His rebounding also would add to the team rebounding philosophies here. You can move him to the 3, slot him in there. Now, would it take moving a Coby White to get a Trey Murphy III? That goes back to, we don't know exactly what the Pels would be asking for Trey Murphy III, but this is an interesting rumor to watch out for, right? When you look at it, for example, the Chicago Bulls have slid defensively. Their defensive rating has gone to 119 after being 114 at the start of the season, and that's quite, I know it only sounds like 4 points going up, but that's a lot when it comes down to it, right? You also look at the way that we've been scoring as well, like in that. So we're being outscored by 5.3 points per game. Now, Coby White's going to help that. It is what it is there. That Coby White's going to help with that. But when you look at Trey Murphy, what he's done in all 12 games that he started for, also averaging 1.2 steals per game, which helps the Chicago Bulls get out in transition. Again, he fits into the philosophies that we like to play with as well. When you look at Trey's averages, let's just look at the averages. 36 minutes per game, 19.8 points per game, 6.8 assists, 6.8 rebounds per game, 3.4 assists, and 1.2 steals. He would be first, second, third, fourth, and second in all those rankings for the Chicago Bulls in those respective areas. Trey Murphy would absolutely help this. A 6'9 player, 210 pounds with a 7'1 wingspan, he would immediately be our best on-ball defender in that starting lineup. And again, for the people that are like, well, Isaac Okoro gives us nothing offensively, be able to bring in a three, well, not really 3-and-D. I wouldn't call Trey Murphy 3-and-D, but to bring in a two-way threat like Trey Murphy III would be absolutely huge for this team. He can handle the ball some as well. He's a career 38% three-point shooter, even though his three-point shooting's down a little bit. Trey Murphy would instantly probably become the most versatile player on the Chicago Bulls other than Ayo Dosunmu. No knock on Josh Giddey. I know my Giddey fans, anytime you praise somebody else, the Giddey stands be like, oh my God, how can we not say the rebound and assist? By versatile, I mean on both sides of the ball. Yes, Josh Giddey has grown as a defender. Make no mistake about it. I've even talked about Josh Giddey and his growth as far as communicating on the defensive side of the ball, how that's helped the Bulls. But as far as on both sides of the ball, he would be one of the most versatile players. Now, would you have to give up Ayo? Would you have to give up Coby? That's something that we don't know. It's not going to be cheap to acquire Trey Murphy III. That's why hearing these rumors, I really wanted to try to dive in, and I almost didn't cover it at all until like somebody like maybe a Mark Stein or Jake L. Fisher report on it. But I'll say this, right? For the Bulls that have all their own first-round picks, they have tons of expiring salary if they're looking for that. We have also Portland's pick that does look like it's going to convey sooner rather than later, whereas before it looked like that pick was never going to convey. Now it does look like it could be this year, it could be next year with that Portland team and how they're playing, right? If New Orleans does get to a point to where they're ready to blow up their roster and even trade a young player like Trey Murphy III, who's 25 years old, I personally feel like the Chicago Bulls should be all in on that. And again, I'm not saying that I want to see Coby or Ayo go. I'll be clear on this. But if they have any doubts about being able to re-sign guys like that, I think that this should be a trade that you look at. And so I want to turn this one over to you guys. Hearing the name of Trey Murphy III and hearing that, and again, he's on a contract. He's already locked in for 4 years. The last year of the deal is $31 million, right? So 3 years after the season, which is kind of the similar thing that you're looking at, for example, with Coby or Ayo if you extend them. So if it takes one of Coby or Ayo and a first-round pick or whatever, would you be interested in adding Trey Murphy III to this team? And I know probably people, if I had to guess, people are going to say, yeah, they trade Coby because Trey Murphy's more of a two-way. You keep Ayo Dosunmu, you have two-way players. Trey Murphy can score 20 points per game. I'm assuming that's what Bulls fans are going to say. But I want to ask you guys, what is the most? If you could keep Ayo and Coby, would you be willing to give up 2 first-round picks unprotected for Trey Murphy III? I really want to hear from you guys on this one. And what do you think the interest would be in Trey Murphy? And should the Bulls, per the rumor from Clutch Points, should they really be all in on potentially trading for Trey Murphy if he becomes available? Let me know what you guys think on that down below. Now, one of the things that also was, we just mentioned Coby White. People have been asking how Coby White can help this Bulls team, right? And the Bulls, who sit one game above 500, they take on the Utah Jazz tonight. We'll preview that game here in a second. But when you look at it, Coby White, and especially with the Bulls offense, tremendously helps this team. You talk about the gravity that a player like Coby White has and how, because defenses have to guard him as a 3-level scorer, it's going to open up easier shots for Modest and Isaac Okoro and those type of players. But people forget this one interesting fact. Coby White was the league's, I think, best or second best transition player last year, which this team that likes to play fast, get out and attack the defense, that's good. He averaged 7.1 transition points per game. He was only behind Giannis Antetokounmpo, so he was second in that in transition points. And you look at that. Also, when you look at it as well, the three-point shooting efficiency from Coby White, right? He made 15.4 made threes per game. The Bulls averaged 15.4 made threes per game, third most in the NBA, right? This year it's down to 13.5. Coby White's going to help that. He averaged almost 3 3-pointers per game last season, shooting it at a 37%, and he finished with the 15 most made threes in the entirety of the NBA. You talk about spacing that floor out a little bit more for Modest to go to work, for Vooch to go to work. Coby White's going to provide that as well. 149 of his 216 made three-point attempts last year came from 25 to 29 feet, and he shot nearly 37% from that. He averaged 2 shots per game from that distance last season on that 25 to 29 feet. So again, spacing here for the Chicago Bulls and how that helps this team play the style that they want to play, right? And so Coby White coming back to this team, and it may be as soon as tonight against the Utah Jazz. I assume that we are going to see a much more efficient offense right away when Coby White takes the court again, which is, of course, got to see it actually happen in reality. But I do think that that's coming. But let's talk about that game tonight against the Utah Jazz, right? The Jazz are coming into this game with a 4-8 record. And while they're ranked towards the bottom of the league in offense and defensive efficiency, they're 21st in offensive rating, 25th in defensive rating. They have a net rating of -5.4, which is 23rd in the NBA. But one of the things with this team is they're number one in assist percentage. They do move the ball around, and you can't overlook that. And with them having players like George and Lauri Markkanen, two players that both are averaging over 20 points per game, we have seen the Bulls be susceptible to players that just can put up big numbers against them, and that's where you have to look at it as well. They also are the 8th in three-point attempt rate in the league per game, and that's going to be something. They average 45 three-point attempts per game. If they get hot from the three-point range, we've already seen it. The Bulls falter when it comes to that, and that's something that you have to watch out for. This is also a team that gets to the free throw line a lot. 31 free throw attempts per game, free throw rate per game. That's 4th in the NBA. You got to watch out for that. If that team, and again, three-point shooting, some scores that can go off, and getting to the free throw line, these are things that can hurt the Chicago Bulls, and we've seen it happen a lot. Now, they also are worst in turnover percentage. So if the Bulls can play those passing lanes and get themselves some easy offense, that's where it can go the Bulls' way. You cannot overlook this. The keys to this game for the Chicago Bulls are defense, 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 attack on offense. That's what the Bulls have to do in this game. If they do that, they can win this game against the Utah Jazz. I don't care what their record is. The Bulls cannot come into this game slacking or assuming a win's going to happen. You cannot play down to the level of competition, especially after your loss to the Detroit Pistons. You cannot do that. Come into this game, understand the seriousness and the urgency that you need to play with. Take care of this business, and hopefully you can get it done early, because you're on the first of a back-to-back, and you take on Denver tomorrow. So hopefully we see this team understand the seriousness that they need to play with tonight, get this win done, and then we can go forward and get ready for Denver. But let me know what you guys think on that down below. With that said, let's go ahead and get into these mailbags that we have for today. This one's from Isaiah.
Hey, Haize, this is Isaiah calling. Just kind of thought about, the recent episode, man, and how you were talking about, I think one of the callers actually brought up, people kind of losing faith or hoping the team already. And I just wanted to say, second, I think somebody else said it, but having Coby White back, man, is going to be huge for our offensive structure on the team. Obviously, having Giddey back, I mean, he's the engine, helping everything operate a certain degree. But Coby last year provided a dynamic for the team that I think goes unnoticed. Just his presence. I just watched LeBron and Curry in that interview with Steve Nash, and they talked about the gravity of Curry when he's on the court. It will make a role player seem, I'm not going to say like an all-star, but seem like he's way more than a role player. I mean, you look at a guy like Derek White, Drew Holiday. Yeah, those guys are talented for sure. But when you got Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown on the court, they look even better because they're in the right spots and they're expected to do a certain amount of things. So I think of a guy like Modest Buzelis. Last year, we saw him on the baseline getting so many baseline crazy poster dunks, up and unders, just and ones, all because a driving kick. But they're looking at Coby. Oh, we got to focus on Coby. We got to focus on Vooch. I feel like removing Coby from that made it seem like, okay, now we know Vooch is going to get his buckets. Now we can really lock up Modest. So I feel like our offense kind of got slowed down a little bit in that aspect. Yeah, we've still been good. I believe we're going to be even better. So for the people that are doubting Coby, I just don't really think that's the case. Obviously, we're going to have to get our traction back. But ultimately, I believe that with Josh, with Coby, with Vooch, with Modest, it's going to be a lot harder for teams to game plan for us on the offensive end because we got a guy that's going to get to the lane no matter what. Kobe's a 3-level scorer in all reality. Obviously, he's going to get it, like I say, get his traction back. Vooch, getting the low post, maybe knock down a couple threes if he's not stuck in ass, to be transparent. But then we get Modest, man. I mean, he's becoming even more of a scorer than he was last year. Obviously, he still has a lot of refining to do, but I think we're going to be good, man. All in all to say, I think we're going to be good. I think Isaac Okoro is going to find his way with Coby having some more opportunities open in the corner, like you mentioned. So yeah, man, that's kind of what I'm looking forward to. That's what I wanted to bring up. Also, Jalen Smith, man, I left a message at the end of one of my other videos, other calls a long time ago, but he needs some more opportunity, man. He's been showing the reason why we got him, and I just think he needs some more opportunity, man. But yeah, that's all I got, Haize, man. I appreciate you.
I mean, I think how Coby White helps the offense, you hit the nail on the head there. He's going to get shots so much easier for player like Isaac Okoro and Amadis Buzelis, and then even when Jalen Smith and Io are in the game with him, he's going to help create easier opportunities and shots for them. Coby White can be a one-man fast break at times. So can Io DeSumo. And so because of those things, his ability to rebound and pass and drive and get to the free throw line, which he showed at the end of last season. Let's see if he can keep that up into this season. Coby White is definitely going to help this team. All the doubts that people have about Coby and all the things that we've heard, over that Coby's going to hurt this team and stuff like that. Like, he's going to have to prove those people wrong because, they're going to just assume that they're right. But Coby White on paper helps this team a lot. And I can't wait to see what we finally look like as a team at full strength, because that's when we can really try to determine where this team is going to sit at in the East this year, right? All right, let's get into this next voicemail, man. This one's from AI Kid.
Yeah, what up, Haize? Chat Bulls Network. AI Kid. I wanted to call y'all. We've been losing. We've been on the losing streak, but that's what I wanted to talk to y'all about. But first, I wanted to address, we might finish top because Embiid not the same, and New York is a fraud. But we not ready. We not ready. It's going to take another year. Really remind me of Joe Biden. He looked good at first, but it's obvious this nigga don't know what he's doing. You know what I'm saying? Because he said he took Boozy out because he was in a treacherous territory with Cornette and Wemby. When Boozy was defending the pick and roll better than anyone, let alone doing a better job on Wemby. I feel like we could have still be undefeated if it wasn't for coaching. And you can tell some players are more gassed than others. What's the point of bragging about our bench if we're not going to use them? We need fresh legs every time we on the floor. I want to see rotation, more like we had in the preseason. Yeah, some starters managed our cut, but we're going to keep everybody fresh, and we're going to find a high hand. And we still haven't seen Noah, and it's not like we're a contender. I don't know. I just think Billy needs help, He has the right vision, which is good to have in our organization, but his adjustments are too questionable to overlook and not be held accountable for, We truly have a daily roster, and it could go to waste with Billy Thibodeau running our starters to the ground, So y'all let me know y'all thoughts on that. But I feel like a lot of the times we could have just made adjustments, and these adjustments aren't hard to see to a casual basketball fan. So why is it so hard for an NBA coach? I don't know. Maybe he needs help. Y'all let me know y'all thoughts.
So I won't act like adjustments haven't been a problem for Billy Donovan. They have, right? And I think that's the thing that we continue to see. And that's why, Billy Donovan, turning the defense over to Wes Unseld, I think was just smart because it showed that Billy understood his own limitations. So whether it's Wes Unseld, Dan Craig, Billy Donovan, they got to get their stuff together and try to get this defensive slide together that the Bulls have been on. Now, as far as things just being fixed by adjustments, that assumes a few things. That assumes that the players are executing the game plan perfectly well. That's assuming that people that come in behind those guys are going to be playing at their level, which doesn't necessarily mean either. But I think overall, just as a team, between the team and the coaching, everything needs to be better because the slide usually isn't just based off one aspect of those. It's usually based off a few factors that go into that. And that's why we really need to attack it and be more on top of it as a team heading into this game and into the stretch on the West Coast. Let's hope that the Bulls can start getting some things together and we can look like a much better team. All right, let's get into this next voicemail. This is one that probably you guys are waiting on. This is Shay.
What's up, Haize? Look, I know you probably have heard me say this in one of my voicemails, but you probably didn't. Look, we talking about this whole Anthony Davis trading for him and trading for Daniel Gafford, maybe unlikely for both of them. Hell, honestly, I think it might be unlikely for E. Missy. But one person that I do think that it's very likely for is a guy by the name of Nick Claxton from the Brooklyn Nets. Look, Brooklyn is in a bad spot right now. If you trade Vooch and maybe that pick from Portland straight up, or maybe just some second round picks, or maybe just 4 Vooch straight up. But all in all, I think we should go after Nick Claxton. Look, he may not score a lot, but let me tell you, he doesn't do anything outside of offense that we don't need besides catching lobs. He rebounds, plays defense. and he does everything we need. And plus, we average over 100 points, even without Vooch. So I look at it like this. And Nick Claxton kind of fits our timeline a little bit better than Anthony Davis and Daniel Gafford. Maybe not Missy, but hey, he does do a lot for our timeline. But hey, what do I know? Maybe Brooklyn might want something more than what the Bulls might give him. But I'm all in on Nick Claxton. Anyway, tell me what you think. Peace.
All right. So Nick Claxton fits the Bulls timeline. He fits the Bulls play style. He fits what the skill set that the Bulls need at that center position as well. Now, here's what I'll say, right? Nick Claxton has had seasons where he's averaged 2 blocks per game, and I love that for him, right? I love that for him. But I do think that in some ways that Nick Claxton has gotten this reputation as a really good on-ball defender when he's really not. Nick Claxton has some pick-and-roll defensive issues as well, right? But I think the thing with him comes down to this, right? And look, I want to be clear. There's no perfect player for the Chicago Bulls, right? There are players that get you close there. There are players that bring a lot of what the Bulls need. There's always something that, misses a little bit when it comes down to it. Nick Claxton gets you a lot of what you need, and no doubt about that. But I think the Brooklyn Nets, they're holding on to Nick Claxton. They gave him a very team-friendly contract. It's actually de-escalating, meaning that it's less money each year, which is a huge thing. And they're going to be looking for a nice trade for Nick Claxton. And that's kind of why I left him off. I don't really have a gauge on how they view him, right, as far as what they need from him. But, we'll see. I'll say this overall. I would not be mad if Nick Claxton is the player for the Chicago Bulls at all. I think if you're able to get Nick Claxton, keep Miles Buzelis, if Noah Essengate develops, you then have a 3-4-5 of players that are all long, are bouncy, can catch lobs, can get out in transition, can run with your guards as well, and are all decent shot blockers, which then helps with our rim protection. So Nick Claxton is a really good acquisition here. I love the contract too. The fact that the contract, it's $25 million this year, 23 after that, and then $20 million the year after that, which means that as you have to extend Miles Buzelis, right, you actually are gaining more on that because you have that space that's there. Nick Claxton is a really good prospect. I just think that the Nets and where they are, they're going to be really trying to get as much draft assets as possible. And I don't know how stingy the Bulls are with their draft picks right now, and we'll see what happens with that. But, hey, I talked about Trey Murphy III early, and that's going to take probably 2 firsts to get done. So can't knock you on that one, Shay. I guess we'll see what happens with that one overall, man. But great call out there on Nick Claxton. And many of you guys brought up Nick Claxton. All right, let's get into the last voicemail we have today, man. This one's from Reggie.
Hey, this is Reginald calling in. I just want to thank you again for, cutting off this AD to the Bulls rumors bullshit at the knees. So the thing before it was born. There's no reason to trade for Anthony Davis because he's not going to be playing more than 50 games healthy in a year. As the cost $50 million, that's worthless. The only team I see is maybe Boston trading for him, because Derek White has been asked and Anthony Simmons isn't really much better. So I'm guessing that Boston might do it. They have a future front for the Tatum, Brown, and AD, and possibly a center somewhere along the line. But for me right now, what I'm most concerned about is Billy Donovan. I messed around and saw one of your videos from 2 years ago where the title was, "Is Billy Donovan the right coach for Chicago?" And once again, this was years ago, and we're still asking that question after watching him cost the Bulls at least 2 games, and the Bulls slid from number 1 to number 9 in the East. So the answer for me is no, and it was always no. And some people might say that's just because Giddey got hurt or Coby White's hurt and Boots just fell off. But as a coach, it's more than that. It's the fact that he doesn't know who to keep in and who to take out. And for some reason, he doesn't know how to manage the game properly. Like, he doesn't adjust well to the situation. And if someone's not going off and he has to go up against a competent coach with a well-disciplined team, you might as well just mark it down as an L. And it's just frustrating because, like I said, we've been seeing this for years, and there's no excuse anymore. But we know he's not going to get fired because Jared Reinsdorf. So we're stuck with this guy for this couple of years. And even if the Bulls make the playoffs, they're not going to do anything because when he's going to get out coached, he's going to find a way to revert back to who he truly is. He's a loser. So thanks for hearing me out.
No AD, and that's that. I mean, I'm done with the AD rumors. I know that there are a segment of Bulls fans that would love AD to be here, but I'm good on that. I'm really good on that. No, thank you. You can keep his ass at home. But as far as Billy Donovan being out coached, yeah, it's something that we're all too familiar with. It's something that we see way too frequently, and this is why I was hopeful that Billy Donovan was really going to rely on those. He got high-level assistants here. Dan Craig and Wes Unseld are two of the more heralded assistant coaches in the league. And I mean, maybe he is relying on them and we're just not still seeing the success. So I don't want to act like it's not a possibility that he isn't doing that, but I just hope that they were going to bring an extra dynamic to this team because, yeah, Billy does have problems with adjustments. He just too slow or not at all sometimes. And then I think also with that is that we just see that he does get out coached. He's not the greatest X's and O's coach. He's a solid one, but not a great one. He's not as bad as some people make him out to be either. But I still think, and I still hold on to what I've always said. But when the Bulls finally have a roster that they feel very confident in, I think that that's going to give a short leash for Billy Donovan. And unless he gets that team over the hump, you're probably looking at after AK and Eversley feels solid about where this roster is as a whole, you're probably looking at a year or two evaluation for Billy Donovan. And then they're probably going to look at a different coach to bring in here. Now, that doesn't mean Billy Donovan may not move to the front office role or something like that because they do love him. But I think that that's probably what you're looking at from a head coaching standpoint. But that's just my thoughts. You guys can let me know how you feel down below. That's also my time for today, y'all. Make sure you guys are following us, man. It's exciting, right? That's all I'll say is that if people are excited about the possibility of Trey Murphy III and Nick Claxton or Coby White coming back, you're not alone. There are a lot of people that are excited about this team. Don't let the naysayers out there on social media, on Twitter or whatever else, let you think that it's all doom and gloom because it's not, right? So make sure you guys drop your thoughts, send in any voicemails. Make sure you hit the like button and subscribe to the channel as well to keep the conversation going. Hit that notification bell if you want to be notified when we post as well. I always appreciate you guys. Make sure you're following us at Bull Central Pod. If you send us any feedback, questions, comments, concerns, bullcentralpod@gmail.com. Lastly, if you want to leave a text message and our voicemail for the mailbag, the number to do so, 773-270-2799. We're the #1 spot for everything Chicago Bulls related. And like I like to end every episode on, stay safe out there, see red, and always go Bulls. Love you guys. Catch you later on the night. Peace.
This has been a presentation of the Break Media.